Hey everybody, Ryan here, and surprisingly, Gaijin has actually delivered on their promises for a roadmap of economy changes and other game fixes before the 14th of June. And so here we are with the news post right in front of you. War Thunder changes roadmap. Published before the 14th, by the way. Good job, Gaijin, being very prompt with it. Now, there's going to be no fancy editing or footage or cutting around or anything. I'm just going to read some of this article and cut together the important parts that you need to hear. Anyways, in the first bit of the post, they just say a couple things about this being a plan for changes throughout the rest of this year, 2023, and that they will be having another feedback session in the fall after some of the changes are implemented, and that this is a really huge roadmap, and it's the biggest roadmap and biggest changes they've ever proposed, so some things might not come in time, and some things may come earlier as well, and if they do, then they plan to deploy them as soon as they're ready. And as usual, the roadmap points are subject to change. Now, they have a detailed breakdown of all of the changes right here in the beginning, but then later on they introduce this graphic which shows you everything coming in each update grouped together. And so for the sake of brevity, I'm just going to read through this graphic, and if anything needs a little bit more detail, I'll go scroll back up and read from there. And so these are the changes that they're saying are coming in the Royale major update, which will be releasing sometime soon, supposedly in June 2023, which leaves Gaijin with 17 days left to get this done. And first and very welcomely on this list is strike UAVs being moved to higher ranks. Now, this is a little confusing to me, but I think they're saying that the minimum BR you will be able to see drones at is 9.7 after the changes, which is absolutely fantastic because drones are super annoying and nobody asks for them. And also, night battles are being temporarily disabled, which is fantastic. And they also mentioned that in a future update, night battles will be completely optional. And another huge one is the refinement of the damage model for small caliber heat rounds. Now, these are always worded a little funny, but I'm just going to read what they have written right here. Fragments of the shape-charged jet along the flight axis will be capable of inflicting damage to the crew in the dimensions of the fighting compartment of any tank, if they are not stopped by more massive obstacles. I gotta be honest with you, Chief. What? I think maybe what they're trying to say here is that as long as there's nothing in the way, that shrapnel will have a wider cone of effect within the vehicle after a heat shell penetrates. Get a native English speaker, please. And those are pretty much the big three changes for the Royale roadmap, but I'll read the rest too. The hydroplane respawns will be moved to the map's center, allowing them to spawn over the friendly airfield. Not really sure what that means. It also seems like they're listening to people that are saying midfield AA in air battles is not very fun, and so they're reducing the effectiveness of that. And they're fixing the trees on the new winter versions of some maps, and fixing issues with bushes when they're shot through or after a collision. Hopefully they're talking about the bushes that just vibrate when you sit in them. And they also mentioned that they're implementing the changes from this news post a while back, as well as refining the collision model for ground vehicles so that when you're flipped over, your turret doesn't clip through the ground and you're impossible to flip over. And the next batch of changes on the roadmap is also supposedly coming in June 2023, which means this is all happening in the next 17 days, according to Gaijin. Now, I'm going to start with the huge one here. Revision of the use and obtaining of FPE and repair kits for ground and naval, as well as countermeasures for aircraft. Now, this is all worded very strangely, so I'm going to try to decipher it for you. Basically, everything is being split into a default and improved modification. So for ground vehicles, you'll get one charge by default and then research the module to regain the 2 current charges. And for naval, the default charge will take longer to put out a fire, but will have no limit in the number of uses. And the improved one will function as normal currently. And they're saying for parts and tool sets on ground and naval, the default repairing will put everything back to partial functionality, similar to arcade battles repair mechanics, which I'm honestly not familiar with because I don't play arcade. But then of course the improved modification will function like the currently unlockable parts and toolsets. And now countermeasures on aircraft will be available by default, and then by researching the module you'll get the options for chaff and mixes and all of that stuff. So generally I think that's a very, very good change. And also there's changes to Silver Lion mechanics, which includes improving the balance of Silver Lions, increasing the reward multiplier, and reducing the repair costs for vehicles so that all vehicles can break even for the average player, including those without a premium account. And the calculation of said multipliers and repair costs will be taken across an average of vehicles of the same type and battle rating instead of pure individual vehicle statistics. Now, this SL stuff is explained much more in depth in this article, and they also provided more spreadsheets so you can look at the repair costs and you can vote on it. And there's some other little things like the display of BR ranges in the map filter, which I assume they're talking about where you can ban maps. I'm not really sure, but it'll display the BR range you can see the maps at, which is nice. And in that same vein, they're revising the set of maps available to piston and jet aircraft and moving some of the large maps to higher BRs, which is always a good thing. And now for the category they're calling Summer Updates 2023, which means basically these changes are coming within the next 2 to 3 months. And that includes more changes to Silver Line mechanics, including insurance against losing SL in a battle when you have a premium account, which is cool, I guess. I mean, adding new features to premium will incentivize people to buy it, and the feature seems to be good for the player and good for Gaijin. And adding free backups to newly purchased premium vehicles, which I think is really cool. And dynamic repair cost reduction, which really quickly means the repair costs will be adjusted based on how long you were alive in a match. And another cool one is that capture point rewards will be given to vehicles that didn't survive until the capture completed, which is nice because it hurts when you're about to get the cap and then you die right before it ticks over. And also free repairs if you're destroyed by a friendly, which just makes sense. And then they also bring in the first changes to the research point progression by, quote, condensing of tech trees by grouping of vehicles and decreasing required research points to research vehicles in groups by 2 times. So basically what I'm gathering here is that say you have the T62 and T62M1 in a folder. I'm not sure entirely, but I believe the T62M1 currently costs 270,000 RP to research. Based on what they just said, it would then cost 135,000 to research, which, sure, why not? And a reduction of research and purchase costs of rank 6 and 7 aircraft, which they interestingly expand upon in the detailed post with, quote, initially we intended to address the progression of rank 6 and 7 for both aircraft and ground vehicles simultaneously once rank 8 ground vehicles were introduced. So, rank 8 ground soon? Anyways, continuing with summer 2023, we've got more progression updates in the form of mission points being rewarded for repairing and extinguishing fires for your teammates. And also this other very interesting tidbit, helicopter research progression by playing ground vehicles. A player will be able to select either tank or helicopter to channel the research points in ground battles. Based on my understanding of what I just read there, for example, I have a lot of trees fully researched for ground, but I have very little progression on helicopters, and so I'm imagining being able to put all my RP from, for example, my completed German tree into my helicopter research without having to play a helicopter. That sounds pretty good, because as we all know, helicopter grind is cringe, so that's pretty cool. And continuing to part 3 of 4 for their matchmaking implementations, we have yet another very interesting and very spicy proposed change. And it's a huge one, so I'm interested to see what happens here. Quote, improving the balance of vehicles around era-breaking battle ratings, such as the transition from RHA and full caliber AP to APDS, ATGMs, stabilizers, and advanced systems by changing the BR of certain vehicles. And then they make a bit of a mistake here, but just ignore that last line. And so basically what's happening here is from 7.0 to like 8.3, 8.7, we're going to be seeing changes on vehicles that don't belong there. And further up in the post, they do specify improving the balance of late Cold War era vehicles. So I think I can speak for almost everybody that has played a mid-level BR around the Cold War vehicle era. I'm very, very excited and interested to see these BR changes be implemented and what vehicles are going to be changing. And then we have some more gameplay changes, which are improving the indication for spawn zone protection and finalizing the mechanics of the commander sight in ground vehicles. And now expanding on the spawn zone stuff, first is a more obvious indication of hits on players protected by the spawn zone so that the shooter understands why their shots went straight through the protected vehicles. And the second is an indication of players firing at the spawn zone, and such shooters will be additionally marked in the game world and on the minimap, similar to being scouted. Which, hey, you know what? I'm so down. Get marked when you're shooting from a long angle. Get pinged on the minimap when you're camping the spawn. Get out of my game, dude. And then this one is really nice in my opinion. They're gonna add a short delay to hunter-killer mechanics, which means on vehicles that have commander fire control, when one of the two controlling the gun dies, so either the commander or the gunner with one still remaining alive, there will be a slight delay in regaining control of aiming. So basically when the gunner dies, the commander has to be like, huh, wait, what? The gunner's dead? Oh shit, I gotta do this. Some of you may not really like it, and I'm interested to see how long they make the delay, but I think this is a very nice change because I think everybody gets a little frustrated when they only get the commander or gunner and still get killed after making what they thought was a perfect shot. And before getting into these map changes, they're also making it easier to report hate speech in chat, which is great because people are wiling out in the game right now. And now I'm going to read through their detailed map changes for the Summer Update 2023, not including the one at the bottom. Poland and Eastern Europe will have changes to the landscape outside of the town in order to, quote, get rid of large forests and hills and introduce fields with small interspersed forests and hills instead. This will get rid of the massive problems of forests where no one is visible and will lead to more active gameplay. So they say. What I'm hoping happens on Poland specifically is that the spawn camp gets removed, where you can just drive north and shoot directly into the enemy spawn and farm them enough to even get a nuke. So hoping for some great changes there. And then on Eastern Europe, which is also very interesting. So Eastern Europe specifically, I'm not sure if they mean Poland and Fields of Poland or Eastern Europe and European province. So in reference to Eastern Europe, that's the small town with the canal running through the middle, which honestly I think could use some changes to the surrounding hills because it's very annoying, especially on Eastern Europe, to be spawn camped on the west side by someone from the east side going to the North Hill. And changes to the landscape and design of the locations El Alamein, Aral Sea, American Desert, Japan, Sinai, Normandy, Alaska, Seversk, Vietnam, Maginot Line, 38th Parallel, Stalingrad, and Karelia based on player feedback. And they again plan to remove places where one can control most of the map. And you know, I hate to see it, but I'm sure they're gonna remove the sea flank from Maginot Line because that shit broken. And this one, oh my god, this change right here makes me moist, not gonna lie. Massive revision of asset collision in ground vehicle locations in order to get rid of inconsistencies of visual and physical models. Please, for the love of all things holy, dude. I'm so tired of shooting a dude around a corner only to hit the corner because the hitbox is ever so slightly larger than the physical model. Anyways, now moving on to the next major update, early autumn 2023. And here they're implementing the last part of the SL mechanic changes, which is a detailed calculation of rewards in the mission results window as well as in the private message window after the battle ends, which includes changes to research points as well to the same effect, which is great because sometimes you close the end of battle screen a little too quickly and then you're left with no way to get back to the detailed breakdown of the match and rewards. And then there's also this cheeky one for research point changes with skill bonuses in RP. So let's scroll up and see what they have to say. So skill bonuses in RP, extra reward for a certain number of kills in a session, with the required kill number as well as the bonus value being determined by the game mode and vehicle rank. And they give an example with some approximate values for a rank 3 ground arcade battle, where getting 3 kills would give you plus 15% to your RP, 6 kills would give you plus 30% RP, and 9 kills and up would give you plus 50% to your RP gain, which sounds pretty massive to me, and I love to see it. And they also have the revision of naval progression, which they also say may be postponed to the 4th update of the year. Now, I don't really play naval, I have no context here, but it sounds good. Revising the progression, great. And for other progression updates, they have the addition of a limited list of battle tasks and some battle pass tasks to existing air and ground sim battles, which is awesome. And this is a cheeky one too, keeping the progress of the daily login reward in the PC version by collecting daily rewards in War Thunder Mobile. Which, sure, if you play mobile, then you can get your rewards if you're away. You love to see it. And now this goes back to the change coming in Royale, where night battles are temporarily disabled, and they plan to implement them in the early autumn update, where you can choose whether or not you want to be put into night battles. And this one's a little funny, improvement of jungle by reducing the amount of jungle. Okay. Turns out making a map covered in foliage where you allow players to turn a lot of the foliage off with ultra low quality isn't a very good idea. And now for a couple of miscellaneous gameplay changes, you have the ability to accept an apology for a team kill. And also, you know, this is pretty neat. They're going to add the ability to shoot off 3D decorators, which I hope includes bushes as well, which will also take into account the settings for damage to allies in the selected game mode. And they also mention, luckily, that there will be no effect on the projectile ballistics when a decorator is impacted. And then they have this proposed networking change, which always comes with a grain of salt because games with networking are not perfect, but we'll see what they can do. Reworking of network logic to solve the problems of ghost shells. And then the second thing I believe they're trying to say is peeker's advantage, but I don't know if you can really fix it. Let's see what they have to say. So in the case of a small difference in time within the player's ping, limited for example by 120 milliseconds, between receiving damage blocking their shot on the server and the player's own shot, consider that the player managed to shoot. What the fuck? At the moment the player sees their shot, which did not happen on the server, and believes that their shell has Okay, I think I just lost a brain cell reading that. I'm gonna have to wait until they've implement the changes. I don't know what I just read, bro. And the last of the proposed changes for autumn 2023 is improved target hit alert in aircraft battles. So what they're saying here is that for an air target that is considered shot down under the current conditions in game, but still has the ability to shoot back, they're going to add a delay to the kill indicator and possibly block control of the shot down aircraft after a certain amount of time. And I think that's a pretty decent change because it's frustrating to be killed by a dude that is just spinning to the ground on fire. And then finally, for the fourth update of the year category, which could be in October or November 2023, they have research bonuses for new nations for players with top tier vehicles of other nations. Which this is again one of those things where I'm like, can I even read? Am I inept? Let's try to understand this. So what they say is after obtaining a top tier vehicle of one nation, and such vehicles will be clearly marked in the research tree, a bonus is added to the research of vehicles of this type in other nations where you have not yet researched a top-tier vehicle. And this bonus is given for 3 battles every day for each nation separately and depends on the rank of the researched vehicle, with the approximate values being rank 4 having plus 15%, rank 5 plus 25, rank 6 plus 35, and rank 7 and 8 plus 50%. Now, if I can just focus my thinking energy for 1 second, I might be able to figure out what they mean by this. I'm not really sure. I have almost no idea what they mean here. I'm just gonna wait and see what they have to say when this is implemented, because get a translator, guys. Get a translator, please. And now basically for part 2 of this video, I'm gonna read through some of the highlights of their economy revision R plan in detail post as well. Now, I'm not gonna read anything from this intro because I can't read, so let's just move on and read some of the highlights. So one of their goals is to ensure that the average player at all ranks can maintain a positive or at least neutral SL gain even without an active premium account. And then of course, taking into account the things they've said earlier about increasing SL modifiers and decreasing repair costs across the board, some vehicles will be much more effective at gaining SL than others. And then they deliver a very interesting statement, which I'm just going to read in its entirety. In such cases, we may use other methods, such as adjusting the vehicle's battle rating, modifying its technical and combat characteristics where possible, i.e. altering access to certain shell types or adjusting reload speeds, or applying general balancing factors to all vehicles in that class. To clarify, we will only be changing soft factors such as these and won't artificially alter any elements such as armor thickness or top speed, etc. to change a vehicle's performance. So some of what they say in here is slightly worrying, like applying general balancing factors to all vehicles in the class. That sounds kind of brazy. I'm not really sure what they mean by that anyways, but we'll just have to wait and see. But at this point, I'm sure that if they try to do anything really weird again, it's going to be another situation of fucking around and finding out, because the player base is not playing around at this point. So basically in this section, they're just cherry picking some vehicles that have a significantly reduced SL repair cost, which, you know, good for them. But definitely, if you want to see more of it, go click this link right here and then check out the spreadsheet. It's a lot to take in, and you can't really organize by column, but if you can use your brain cells for a second, you can understand what's going on. And they're saying here too, if the community votes in favor of these changes here in these 2 links, then this economy update will be released a few weeks after La Royale. So if you do have a couple of brain cells left, please read both of these, see what you think, and then go to the voting thing and cast your vote. And then they clarify the income insurance to premium accounts a little bit more. where they acknowledge that it's very probable for expenses of repairs to outweigh earnings even with premium, and specify that if your total repair cost exceeds your income for the match, you'll be compensated after the battle, ensuring that your SL gain will remain at 0 unless you've team killed. And also very nice to see, this feature will be automatically included in every premium account and will not be a separate purchase. And it of course also applies to every active premium account without any additional actions required. And they give a few examples for the dynamic repair cost feature as well, with one being a player surviving for 10 minutes, getting 5 or 6 kills, capturing a point, landing a bunch of hits, and several assists would mean that their repair cost for that single vehicle would not really matter that much. Which they then acknowledge that that same repair cost would mean a lot more to a player that died without doing anything. Which means once again, the new system will directly correlate repair costs to the actual lifespan of a vehicle. And of course, it will not be higher than a certain limit, so you're not just going to keep incurring repair costs the longer you stay alive. And with another detail being clarified that when you J out of a vehicle, that the max repair cost will be applied no matter what. And then there's a little part about premium vehicles basically just making even more money and the set of free backups, so that's cool too. And then there is a section about the team kill penalties revision where they double down on the concept of friendly fire and insist that it has a place in the more realistic game modes of War Thunder, which, you know, is fair enough. So their priorities, therefore, are focused on minimizing the damage and frustration from team kills, which, as said before, you will no longer have to pay repair costs if you are team killed. And then they clarify a bit more about the team kill apology mechanic. So if you receive an apology from the team killer, that means you can opt to accept their apology or not, which will then incur further actions against the team killer. And which, if you decide to accept the apology, that all players will be informed of this in the battle chat and the team killer will not be kicked. Which I assume means that if you don't accept the apology, that the team killer will be kicked. I'm not really sure how that works. Hopefully it's not just one person. And then we have a nice section of them recognizing that research takes a long time. And they once again bring up players not using foldered vehicles. And so their solution for this is, instead of reducing the number of foldered vehicles, their plan is to folder more vehicles, which they say, and I quote, allows you to bypass researching a significant number of vehicles in a research line. And additionally, visually condensing the research tree will make it appear less intimidating right from the start, which is, true enough. And then their solution for vehicles being foldered and not played often is to reduce the research cost by 50%. So let's just say, I don't know, you started with the Challenger 2 and then the Challenger 2F and tests were in the same folder. Challenger 2 would have a normal research cost and the 2F and tests would have 50% reduction. This is going to be very interesting, I think. And then they have some more blurbs about the bonus for getting a bunch of kills, and the thing that I still struggle to understand completely, which is the bonus in research for vehicles when you have researched other in-game nations' top-tier vehicle. I don't even know what's going on. And anyways, there it is. There's Gaijin's plans for the rest of 2023 and how they're gonna bring this game back from the brink of actual destruction. So anyways, I hope this video was helpful for those of you that don't want to read two extremely long-winded and poorly translated articles from Gaijin. And yeah, stoked.